Using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone or tablet, please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. We appreciate your help. As a reminder, we are committed to equity, and we would now like to share with you our equity statement before we begin. So as SANDAG, we hold ourselves accountable to communities we serve. We acknowledge we have much to learn and much to change. We firmly uphold equity and inclusion of every person in the San Diego region. This includes historically underserved and systematically marginalized groups impacted by actions and inactions at all levels of government and society. We have an obligation to eliminate disparities and ensure that safe, healthy, accessible, and inclusive opportunities are available to everyone. We are committed to creating a San Diego region where every person who visits, works, and lives can thrive. And with that, I think we can get into our agenda. As you can see, we have a jam-packed agenda this evening. We'll begin with a quick overview of SANDAG and the regional plan, and then jump right into the Border to Bayshore Bikeway project. Now, during this portion, you'll learn all about project features, what to expect during construction, and ways you can continue to stay engaged in the project. Following this, we're going to open it up to questions. This live Q&A portion will be facilitated through the Q&A function at the end of this Zoom presentation. As a reminder, please be respectful. Inappropriate language will not be permitted, and disruptive participants will be removed from the webinar. As a reminder, if you're having a technical problem at any time, please send a message via the webinar chat, and our host is going to work with you to ensure you can get connected. And before we really dive in, we want to start with a quick poll. So tell us how you found out about the Border to Bayshore Bikeway webinar. Was it through a postcard mailer, email, social media? I'm seeing a lot of postcard mailers, which is fantastic. Some emails. And for other, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Oh, we're getting some word of mouth in there. Fantastic. All right. It looks like email won out this one, but it's pretty balanced. It's fantastic. All right. Well, we always appreciate engaging with our community, and we really thank you all for joining us tonight. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce SANDAG Project Manager Madayi Para to kick off our meeting.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Ashley. It's a pleasure to be here. As Ashley mentioned, my name is Madayi Para, and if I can figure out how to advance my slide here, we will continue. We will get started. So, like I mentioned, my name is Madayi Para, and I am the SANDAG project manager for the Border to Bayshore Bikeway project. I will briefly talk about the SANDAG 2025 regional plan as it relates to active transportation. The regional plan is a long-term blueprint for how the San Diego region will grow and how we will get around the region. It also casts a vision on how we look at least 20 years from now, and it covers many important issues. One of those being how we build an accessible and efficient transportation system that works for everyone in the region. The active transportation network is critical as part of the integrated transportation system, providing people with mobility choices that support our regional system, providing people with supporting our regional goals to reduce the number of vehicle miles traveled and decreasing greenhouse gas emissions while improving the health and quality of life. SANDAG is currently updating its active transportation plan. It was last developed in 2010 to ensure a comfortable and safe experience for people of all ages and abilities. That is ultimately the goal of the active transportation and bikeway program. The active transportation plan will update and will help ensure walking and biking to regional destinations, including transit services that are safer and make biking and walking more enjoyable. Projects will include both on and off-street projects, bikeway projects that fit and accommodate not only bikes, e-bikes, e-cargo bikes, scooters, and other smaller low speed devices. And now we have an update of the miles of bikeway projects built in the region. So we have in the San Diego region, we have 1,715 miles of bikeways, and 23 of those miles recently have been built by SANDAG. And next up for construction is more information and some notable project features in the upcoming slides of the project. So up next, I will go over some notable project, the alignment and some project information. And then as Ashley mentioned, we're happy to answer your questions at the end of this session. So before you is the project alignment features, and we have the Border Bayshore Bikeway project is a 6.7 mile project that connects the San Isidro and Tijuana border port of entry to the existing Bayshore Bikeway in the city of Imperial Beach. The bikeway is multi-jurisdictional. So what that means is it passes through two different cities, the city of San Diego to the south and the city of Imperial Beach to the north. And in order to develop this project, the most important destinations in the area were considered, such as schools, parks, transit centers. The project has connections to different transit centers from the one closest to the San Isidro port of entry and to the Iris Transit Center and others in between, and also many bus stops. It also considered parks and schools, I think I mentioned, and of course the Mexican border and the existing Bayshore Bikeway. Now, the bike route essentially helps fulfill the vision laid out in the regional bike plan, and it aims to make riding your bike and also walking on the street a more safer and convenient choice for people. And the Border Bayshore Bikeway project is a vital part of the regional bike network. And this is a high priority project funded through the regional early plan action program. The project will primarily run along Bayshore Boulevard as noted south of the alignment, continuing then onto Iris Avenue, which then turns into Ingrid, Halo, and Grove, and then subsequently heading northbound onto 13th Street, which is the portion in Imperial Beach. And this will provide connections, like I said, between San Isidro community and the city of San Diego and Imperial Beach. And this project is made possible by the Regional Bike Early Action Program funded by Transnet. And this project was also awarded funding from the state, from the Active Transportation Program grant to help cover some of the engineering right away and construction costs. And with that, we will move on to the next slide. The image before you is highlighting some of the project features, starting with the, San Isidro area. So here we have in Bayshore Boulevard and the Del Sur intersection, we have a bus island, and the project proposes this feature at various points throughout the project. And essentially, we have at this particular intersection, when we're eliminating the need for buses to jump the bike lane. So hence we have the bus island. So this allows people to continue in a straight line who are boarding and offboarding from the bus. And this provides more space for transit users and amenities as well, such as a bus shelter for greater comfort traveling in the bus. And this also provides for a multimodal option for people. Now, next we have the another project location that we wanted to highlight. So this is the Bayshore Boulevard intersection and with the interchange at 905 and Iris Avenue. So the image before you is an example of a protected intersection best practice, and there are different design features here that we wanted to highlight. Oops, I'm going forward. Excuse me. So this is an example of a protected intersection. So needless to say, this is a very busy intersection with traffic coming in and out of the 905 freeway, and also folks coming in and out of the Iris Transit Center from Iris Avenue. There's also a supermarket, which tends to get quite busy. So the idea here is to provide smaller walking distances from intersection to intersection, and creating physically protected intersection crossing alongside crosswalks to increase safety and comfort for people who are biking and walking. Also providing protection via physical separation barriers and dedicated or leading bike signal facing is another component of protected intersections. And we're also reducing vehicle speeds here by increasing the turning radii, with particularly from Bayer into Iris Avenue. And also reducing vehicle speeds will increase visibility of people who are crossing the street, and then people who are also using the bike lane, on the bike lane. Also in the image before you, we have from the two-way cycle track, we then transfer into a shared bike route as we're heading westbound, and then to help aid with slowing speed volumes and speed traffic, we also include some speed cushions along the way. Next intersection we are highlighting is Ingrid, and which then turns into Grove Avenue and Green Bay Street. Here we have an example of a neighborhood traffic circle, or what is also known as a mini roundabout at this intersection. So this is another example of a traffic calming concept that is proposed by the project. And these mini roundabouts, or neighborhood traffic circles, as we are using on this project, utilizing on this project, they will be built on key places in the project and at intersections to reduce speeds and increase visibility for vulnerable road users. And this will be an overarching theme. You will continue to hear me say that we are trying to reduce traffic speeds and increase as much as possible the visibility for people who are vulnerable road users. So that means people who are crossing the streets, people who might be on a wheelchair, scooter, and riding their bike as well. The goal or philosophy is to offer more safety to people walking and biking. And it is preferred that cyclists are separated from traffic. However, if this is a residential area, we seek to implement measures that reduce the speed of vehicles in favor of the visibility of cyclists and pedestrians. Now we have here another intersection that we want to highlight, where the project proposes curb extensions. Again, essentially the idea would be to reduce the travel path of pedestrians and just people crossing the street. And then we have that as well with a bike boulevard. Oops, let me go back. So here essentially we have the proposes curb extensions, like I said, and it's intended for quieter streets with low traffic volumes. And this will give the bicyclists a priority to enhance speed management. And curb extensions are proposed as well. The curb extension in combination of the bike boulevard will create a low stress alignment and shorten travel distance for those who are crossing the street. Now, this intersection in the city of Imperial Beach, 13th Street and Imperial Beach Boulevard, is quite a busy intersection for those who are familiar with the area. And I will pop up 2 images below. Essentially, there's just a lot of movement here. And so what the project proposes at this location is having separate bike lanes. Separated bike lanes is the goal of this project. And at this location, in places with high traffic volumes, such as this intersection, as I mentioned, it's quite busy. This is an example of what we can do with the images below. With the route is bent or twisted a bit outward, and that essentially controls traffic. And the use of color is also proposed on the bike lane, and that differentiates the route so that essentially people who are biking and or scooting, utilizing the bikeway, can identify their spaces and can further delineate their right of way, if you will. And then drivers can know that there are pedestrians and cyclists who are at that intersection, which is a potential point of conflict. And likewise, the extensions of the sidewalks can use as an added layer of protection for cyclists and pedestrians. Now, I will note here some of the project recent accomplishments. So we have the project was awarded a construction contract in November of 2022. It subsequently received permit issuance from both cities that the project alignment will run through, from the city of Imperial Beach and the city of San Diego. And also, we recently received the Caltrans encroachment permit to do work within their right-of-way. And the anticipated schedule is, so there's preliminary construction activity in April of this year. And then, of course, the groundbreaking ceremony, which is slated to occur in May as well. And the project is slated to be open to the public in early 2025. Some of the the project schedule. The project began with the planning phase back in 2015, and that took place from 2015 to 2018. Subsequently, the preliminary and environmental clearance phase have occurred between 2018 to 2019, and then the final design phase from 2019 to 2022. And the project is currently in the construction phase, and as I mentioned previously, it is slated to be completed by 2025. And now some of the landscaping improvements here on the project. So this project does include many drought tolerant plants, materials, and trees. The 4 images in front of you are just some of the trees that the project proposes to plant. As some of the improvements, specifically on Bayshore Boulevard, it does not include the other landscaping materials and plants. But these are just the common names of the trees, and then these show the mature diameter and size of the trees, after years of being planted. I just want to mention that, but we wanted just to offer these as a nice visual of what the trees will look like. Some of the landscaping improvements on Bayshore Boulevard. This is a 3D visualization of what Bayshore Boulevard might look like with the project improvements in real life. So we have, vehicles on the roadway. Of course, we also have the bus going through, and we have an example of, a very rudimentary example of what the bus island might look like with the bus shelter. So there's just the different components, including the beautification aspect of the drought tolerant plants, trees, also in real life, how it might look like with cyclists and just people waiting at the bus stop and people on the sidewalk. But it is just an important reminder to understand this is a concept that was developed a little while ago to visualize the improvements, and the actual improvements of the construction, might look a little bit different than the rendering before you. Now, what to expect during construction. So during construction, impacted areas will receive our construction postcard, and which provides more details about the upcoming construction and traffic control. And then some things to expect are monthly e-blasts and monthly e-blasts, construction notices, notice updates to the website, and there will be more information on how to get involved in coming up. And then you can also expect traffic control notices, detours, noises, lights at night, bike and vehicle lanes, flaggers, and parking restrictions. And then with that, I will pass it over to Natalie Cortez, and she will give you some of the updates on upcoming engagement opportunities.
Hello, everyone. As Marai mentioned, my name is Natalie Cortez, and I'm the communications lead for the Border to Bayshore project. So Marai covered several exciting parts that are in this project. And as community members, we want you all to feel informed about the Border to Bayshore project and other bike initiatives. So I'm going to quickly share some opportunities for you all to get involved and engage with us. Next slide. All right, thank you. So just as a recap, leading up to the start of construction, the Border to Bayshore project team hosted an open house and public hearing back in November 2018, where attendees were invited to learn about the project and provide written and verbal comments. And as part of the project's environmental review, those written and verbal comments were provided to our transportation committee, which was approved through CEQA in the following month in December 2018. Now, since then, the project team has worked thoroughly to finalize the project design. And now that the design has been approved and construction is going to kick off, we're really committed to re-engaging you all and bringing you along through the whole construction process. So in the next 2 slides, I'm going to share some two upcoming events that you all can attend. The first being our groundbreaking. You'll see in the next slide. So we want to officially invite you all to attend our Border to Bayshore groundbreaking event, which is Thursday, May 4th at the San Ysidro Civic Center. Now, this is your opportunity as community members to come celebrate this historic project with us and engage with the project team, and also hear from community leaders on why this project is so important. So this event will take place at 10 a.m. and we will be providing some light food and beverages for you all. We hope to see you there. Following this meeting, we will share more information about the event and how you all can RSVP. So please stay tuned for that. And the last opportunity I wanted to share with you all is our reoccurring bike event. So formerly known as Bike to Work Day, we have now expanded this event to be Bike Anywhere Day. And this is really an opportunity for you all to celebrate all of our bikeways beyond just the Border to Bayshore Bikeway. We have expanded this event to include people of all ages beyond just commuters. So we're really encouraging our students, families, bike enthusiasts to go by bike. This event is meant for all of you to know that biking can be an easy alternative to short car trips. So instead of driving, people can bike to the park, to the beach, work, school, local restaurants. And we're super excited about this event because we are expecting thousands of San Diego residents to attend and take the pledge with all of us. So if you're interested, please take the free pledge by scanning the QR code or visiting our website, which is sandag.org/bike month. So those were the opportunities that I really wanted to share with you all. I do want to let you all know in our next slide. So before we move on to the Q&A session, I want to remind you all that our team, like Marai mentioned, will be sending monthly construction updates about this project. If you are interested in receiving these regular updates, I would highly suggest that you all visit our subscribe page on our website, which is right there, sandag.org/subscribe. This is the easiest way for you all to get those reoccurring updates. All you need to do is make sure that you select the Border to Bayshore project, since that's the one that you would be interested in. Moving forward, we will be sending out those updates through our e-blast. We will also be regularly updating our website, which is the Keep San Diego Moving link that you see right there. You'll also see project fact sheets on the website, along with other graphics that you can reference at any point. So in addition to that, for whatever reason, if you aren't able to find any of the information that you're looking for, the project team can always be reached at our direct email, which is gobybike@sandag.org. Several of us will receive those emails, and we will respond to you fairly quickly to give you the information that you're looking for. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Ashley, our moderator, to start kicking off some of those questions and answers.
Thank you, Natalie. As a reminder, to submit a question, please click the Q&A chat icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen and enter your question into the chat box. We've already started seeing a few trickle in. So I'm going to read a couple out loud, and then we have our presenter, Marai, here, as well as Ryan Whipple, to kind of jump in and answer any questions you all may have. So with that, the first question is, how long will construction of the Border to Bayshore Bikeway last?
I can answer that question. So as mentioned, and I'll go to that slide just so that we can go back. So the construction is approximately a year and a half. So we will begin construction activity in April of basically just in a couple of weeks. And so it will be open to the public in 2025. So that's roughly 2 years of construction activity. And just as a reminder, construction is during the week. So those are the construction working days. And we do have hours during the day, which are usually reviewed and approved as well through the encroachment permits that we have received through the city. I hope that answers the question.
All right, let's see. We also had someone ask, what about Emory and Mendoza School?
Yeah, so I can speak a little to that. During the planning phase, as Marai mentioned, schools and connectivity to those schools was really prioritized along the bike route connecting from San Isidro Boulevard all the way to the Bayshore Bikeway. Emory and Mendoza were both identified during that process. However, 13th Street and Grove were selected because of superior safety compared to Coronado Avenue and Saturn Boulevard. And so that was all again done during the planning phase, and there was a public outreach component to that as well. But that's the short answer to that question.
Thank you, Ryan. I guess similarly, we received a question saying, why are you not routing through Saturn? I don't know, do you have anything additional to add to that, Ryan?
Yeah, so Saturn is the major north-south arterial that had the potential to connect to the Bayshore Bikeway. And the project team, along with stakeholders from City of Imperial Beach, and as identified 13th Street as a better option for that north-south route. Again, because there are existing bikeways on 13th Street, and so the project team looked to leverage that opportunity to utilize that to provide that connection.
Perfect. All right, I see more questions trickling in. Someone asked, does this project include repavement of streets or just painting of the bike lanes? Oh, Maddie, I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. As you mentioned, we've only been doing virtual meetings for a couple of years. So yes, we are resurfacing some streets. So the project and the image that I have before you includes some of the different bikeway facilities throughout the alignment of the Border Bayshore project. And so we're not just doing like signage and striping. We are including buffered bikeways or a two-way cycle track with the raised island, for example, on Bayshore Boulevard. So we will be doing some resurfacing work there, but it also depends on the type of bike infrastructure that we're doing. It will be more minimal improvements in terms of, bikeway facility. If we are traveling westbound as we turn from Iris into Oro Vista Road, which then turns into Ingrid and Halo Street, Halo Avenue. So that is a bike boulevard. So that essentially it's similar to Sharrow's, and it's designed really to have that in like a quieter street, which we have in this condition with lower traffic volume. So here we are going to see possibly also some resurfacing, but this is where we will see the painted striping on the roadway, along with other traffic calming features.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. And thank you all for really engaging and asking questions. Please keep them coming. We have received another one that says, you mentioned this route runs by several transit stations. Are you working with MTS to make sure buses and trolleys can allow more bikes?
Yes, that was part of the planning phase, which took place between 2015 to 2018. And I'm sure Ryan can fill in on anything that I'm missing, but we did work extensively with MTS to get design concurrence and to make sure that the bikeway was not in conflict with existing bus routes and proposed bike routes. We are not only did we work with them during the planning phase, we continue to work with MTS and other regulatory agencies to make sure that the project is in concurrence and basically it aligns with the existing conditions. And then, like I said, proposed improvements. But for the purposes of your question, yes, we did consider and have extensive coordination with MTS, specifically throughout the various transit centers and Iris Transit Center. That's another point where the bikeway accommodates, again, the turning radius of buses coming in and out of that busy station.
Wonderful. Let's see, will bike lanes have stop signs, for example, in four-way streets?
Yeah, so I can answer that one. So where bike lanes are completely separated and they come to an always stop intersection, an additional stop sign will be provided to ensure that the bikes are complying with the always stop requirement.
All right. There are several areas along the route that flood with water during the winter due to poor drainage or sloping. Does the construction address these trouble spots?
I can jump into that one, Mari. Our project team did identify several of these drainage concerns, and we looked at providing for those. If there are drainage concerns that you are aware of, there's always an opportunity to inform us of those. You as residents are most knowledgeable about problem areas like that. So feel free to let us know. But for the most part, we believe we've identified several of them and are trying to provide design solutions to mitigate those.
Perfect. And we're getting a few more. Let's see. What is the plan for 13th Street and Palm Avenue in Imperial Beach? This is a very high volume intersection.
Let me go to that slide. We did have, I keep going with my keyboard and it doesn't seem to work, so bear with me to advance to that slide. So the project is proposing, and that was Palm Avenue and 13th. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
So let me go to that slide here for a second. So this is actually Imperial Beach and Palm. I'm sorry, and Imperial Beach. At Palm Avenue.
This is a similar type treatment. This is from the conceptual phase that's shown here, but essentially the renderings there actually show it really well. Essentially what's going to happen is that this bend out feature, and so the bikes are going to be routed away from traffic, and then they'll be allowed to cross with a bicycle signal and a leading indicator for that bicycle signal. So there's some additional traffic signal type improvements that are going to be done to help accommodate bikes. Sorry to jump in, Mari.
No, that's okay. I was just thinking that the image that I had was of Palm, but you're right. We will be including the bend out treatments, which is similar to the images that we have here below, the renderings below.
Perfect. And I think on a similar note, this resident asked, will the traffic signals, especially at 13th Street and Palm Avenue, get bicycle detection improvements too?
Yes, we're using both loop and push button detection at those signals. So there will be multiple ways for cyclists to be detected.
Wonderful. All right, this is great. Please keep them coming, everyone. All right. Are plastic bollards or separators going to be used along the portions of the route to discourage drivers from blocking or parking the bike lanes along the route?
I can go ahead and jump into with that one as well. Sorry, were you going to say something, Mari?
No, you can go ahead. I'll jump to that slide.
Okay, the delineators and the separated protection along Bayshore Boulevard, for instance, is actually going to be a raised median. We do not have plastic delineators in the middle of the bike lanes because we are using raised median to separate that out. There are signs posted to not enter the two-way cycle track facility. And it's designed in a way to discourage vehicles entering into that space.
All right. And do we have an idea of how much parking will be lost?
So there was a preliminary parking assessment conducted in 2018. And in there, it does reflect the parking loss throughout the project corridor. If we are happy to provide more detailed information about that, there is some parking loss, but there's also some parking gain at different portions of the project since it is extensive and it is almost 7 miles. So there is some losses in some areas. Like I said, there's also parking gain, and then there's other locations where there's a net zero loss or gain of parking spaces. It's fluid as it changes at different portions of the project, of the alignment. but I'm happy to follow up with a specific location and provide more detailed information.
Perfect. And just so you all have it, we'll also drop in the website and social media and the email as well, so you can feel free to reach out to any one of us. All right, we're getting some more in. So this one's a little vague, but it was a request to please provide more detail on the section between Fire Boulevard and East Fire Boulevard.
So if you take a look at the route from Bayshore Boulevard, it actually descends down Park Avenue over to Hall, and then it crosses 805 with the pedestrian bridge over 805. So it doesn't connect all the way down Bayshore to East Bayshore. The pedestrian bridge is being utilized, and that's the connection point onto East Bayshore. So that's how Bayshore Boulevard connects to East Bayshore via the park and rec center on Park Avenue, and then the pedestrian bridge.
Perfect. And then will there still be parking along Bayshore Boulevard available, or is that getting displaced by the bike lanes?
There is still parking available on Bayshore Boulevard. There is some impact to the total number of spaces, but there will still be parking available.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryan. Let's see. Will all signalized intersections have bike signals?
Will all signalized intersections, the majority of the signalized intersections on Bayshore Boulevard, as well as 13th Street, will have bicycle signals. There is not a bicycle signal at East Bayshore Boulevard with San Isidro Boulevard, or at Hollister Street with Grove. Otherwise, all the other signals will have bicycle signals.
Perfect. And are any safety measures included to prevent cars and motorcycles from being on the existing Bayshore bike path?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Are there any safety measures included to prevent cars and motorcycles from being on the existing Bayshore bike path?
I don't believe that was within the scope of this project in terms of safety on Bayshore Bikeway, right, Mari?
Yeah, so to be clear, so this project connects to the existing Bayshore Bikeway, but it does not provide any other improvements beyond the terminus at 13th Street. So our project limits end basically right before the Bayshore Bikeway project begins. I'm sorry, that's not a more direct answer.
Perfect. All right, it looks like we're approaching the end. Why was Bayshore picked when there's already the trolley line instead of San Isidro Boulevard that is full of residents and small businesses?
So I can jump into this because I was in the planning phase. There were actually a number of routes that included San Isidro Boulevard, as well as actually going all the way up Broadway and Coronado Avenue. So a lot of corridors were chosen, are considered. The biggest reason why Bayshore Boulevard was selected was because it provided the greatest amount of safety along that corridor. So while it does end up connecting to those two transit centers, it does provide for a lot of safety along that corridor. It also allows the opportunity to implement the San Isidro Community Plan. So the San Isidro Community Plan, which was adopted in 2016, identified a road diet on Bayshore Boulevard to bring it down to one lane in each direction. So by implementing the two-way cycle track on Bayshore Boulevard, we were able to help the city of San Diego implement one of their key projects essentially on Bayshore Boulevard. So there were no perfect answers. Going through the planning process was challenging, but this allowed us to connect 2 trolleys, some schools, as well as again meet and implement the City of San Diego's community plan for the area.
All right. And will you be adding more bike racks in commercial areas along the route for people to stop and shop? Also bike racks for people to stop and visit restaurants, etc.
Yes, we are, the project is incorporating bike racks at different locations throughout the project. There are also some bike lockers at some of the transit centers, but the project will be including as well some bike racks.
Wonderful. Switching gears slightly, this one is about landscaping. Are any of the drought tolerant plants going to drop foliage, flowers, or seeds that will affect traction on the bike route's surface? Oh, there's more. I regularly skate this route with wheels that are more sensitive to this. However, I'm sure thinner road tires are also affected as well.
We will have an answer to this. I don't have one. It's a little bit outside of my my scope of practice. Marie, do you have an answer to?
No, I mean, I looked at some of the trees that we're proposing and in terms of whether or not they have invasive roots, but I'm just not a landscape architect, so that's also not my area of expertise. But if we have this person's contact information, we're happy to provide that information before the end of this week, I'm sure, and just provide a little bit more detail in terms of the roots of the plants and trees that we will be planting.
Perfect. And we do, so we will follow up after the meeting. All right. This person asked if the Catholic school on Seward and Park Avenue traffic was taken into consideration.
Yes, so the traffic circle there, it shouldn't preclude what's operating there currently in terms of being able to access the area. So it was taken into consideration. Yeah, that's the short answer. So at that location, all movements are still able to be made. It's a constrained right of way, so there's not a lot of room to work with, but it shouldn't change circulation patterns.
Perfect. And then I believe this might be the last one, at least with this first batch. Why not Iris for the east-west route? Saturn connects to Coronado that has bike lanes in place.
So there is a portion of Iris that is selected, the portion from Oro Vista to Bayshore Boulevard, and that portion was selected for that connectivity. So I'm not sure about additional routing. Could you repeat the question again, Ashley?
Yes. Apologies, I just lost it.
Oh, wait, I see it. Why not Iris for the east-west route? Saturn connects to Coronado, and that has bike lanes in place. So again, there are a number of roads that could have been chosen along the route, and the project team did consider Coronado, did consider other portions of Iris Avenue, did consider other portions of Saturn. Again, the route was chosen and selected based on trying to connect the most schools, the most trolley stations, to leverage existing facilities to connect to Bayshore Bikeway. So 13th Street was identified because it already had a connection to the Bayshore Bikeway. And to also provide minimal impact, as little impact as possible to parking as well as bus routes and that sort of thing. So Saturn was definitely considered, as was Coronado. Coronado is has a lot more volume on it, and so that was another reason that it was screened out for this particular connection. But happy to discuss more if there are further questions.
And
Okay.
I'll just add to Ryan's point that in addition to considering the most destinations and originators such as transit centers and schools and parks, we also want to create an alignment that is the most direct and is competitive, quote unquote, with vehicles. So what that means is that, so if somebody is going on, Bayshore Boulevard, riding their bike on Bayshore Boulevard, it would take roughly the same amount of time with from a vehicle if there's a lot of traffic. Sometimes there's a bicyclist that can, get from point A to point B when there's a lot of traffic on a street. So with that said, it is the goal to create a route that is direct with connecting destinations. So at this point, the border with San Isidro and Mexico border to the Bayshore Bikeway, many destinations in between. It's one of the main priorities, but also we want to increase safety as much as possible for all road users and entice members of the community. So that means people who are interested in riding their bikes, but are otherwise deterred because it's a very busy street and or intersection. There are no protected bike facilities. That is essentially what we're doing with trying to move the alignment to a quieter street with lower traffic volumes.
And speaking of busy streets, this person asked, will cyclists somehow be encouraged to slow down when crossing the pedestrian bridge over the 805 to prevent issues with slower pedestrians?
So there isn't, beyond signage and the narrow right of way, there isn't any additional features that would slow cyclists through the pedestrian bridge. However, there is signage to and from the route, as well as it is a very constrained point, so speed should be lower.
Perfect. And will the bikeway cross the trolley tracks at a 90-degree angle?
So on East and West Park, there isn't a actually at all of the locations due to the constrained right of way, the tracks cross at a skew at both Iris and East and West Park. So because of how they cross the roadway at that skew and the constrained right of way, we're not able to route the lane directly perpendicular. There's not enough room for it. However, they are both Iris as well as each side of Park has been does have traffic calming features on it to allow cyclists to more confidently cross at a 90-degree angle, so that because traffic behind them, those are class 3 routes, and so it should be easier to cross based on reduced speeds.
Right. And I think we kind of touched on this earlier, but are there plans in the future to add a bike lane that goes through San Isidro Boulevard as well?
Not as part of this project. That is something that could be identified as part of future either regional or localized bike projects. But for this particular project, I'm not. It wouldn't be part of this scope.
All right. anyone have any more questions? Let's see. The Buyer Boulevard crossing across Dairy Mart Road is currently difficult for pedestrians due to the trolley tracks. How will this be improved with the new construction?
I can jump in on this one as well. So the Buyer Boulevard crossing, the Dairy Mart grade crossing is a challenging one because of how long the gates are down, because of how close the intersection is to the trolley station. We are making improvements for pedestrians. One, because of the road diet, the crossing distances for pedestrians has been reduced significantly across all legs. There's also some preemption timing improvements that are being done concurrently as a separate SANDAG project on the rail crossing there to make it easier for pedestrians to cross safely when the gates are down. So, but it's still going to be a challenging location just because of the grade crossing with the freeway right there. So there are some improvements, but it's a challenging location regardless.
All right, and I think that brings us to the end. Does anyone else have any more questions? Please feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll give folks another moment or two. And following this meeting, just so you all are aware, we will compile all of the questions and answers, and then we'll make sure to post this on the website in case you guys ever want to refer back to it. All right, well, I'm not seeing any questions come in. But we did want to take a moment to thank you all very much for coming tonight. Please keep in touch. As Natalie mentioned earlier, please visit the website, sign up to receive e-blasts. We'll send these updates monthly so you guys are all up to date and engaged. Always feel free to just shoot us an email. We're happy to answer any of your questions at any time. And with that, I think we can conclude this meeting. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight.